the marks she tried to hide. The night belonged to him. Everyone in the valley knew it, though no one ever said it aloud. By the time the sun sank behind the blackened hills and the last church bell faded into silence, the massive iron gates of Blackthorn Estate were already sealed. Lanterns flickered along the stone corridors, casting long, wavering shadows that clung to the walls like living things. The servants moved quietly then, carefully, because this was when Lord Valerius Nocthane awakened. Lena had learned that silence was survival. She glided through the west wing corridor with a silver tray balanced in her hands, her footsteps barely disturbing the ancient floor. Her breath stayed shallow, controlled, the way it always did when she was close to him. Not because he had ever harmed her, but because his presence carried a weight. An unnatural gravity that made the air feel heavier, colder, more alive. She stopped outside the study doors. Inside, candlelight trembled. She could hear the faint scratch of a pen against parchment, steady, precise, unhurried. Lord Nocthane was working. He always was. Contracts, correspondence, things whispered about but never explained. Deals that arrived in sealed carriages long after midnight and left before dawn, carrying men who looked paler than when they came. Lena lifted her hand to knock. Before her knuckles touched the wood, a voice cut through the door. "Enter." She flinched. The door creaked open, revealing the vast study beyond, floor-to-ceiling shelves heavy with leather-bound volumes, a towering desk carved from dark wood, and at its center, the man himself. Lord Valerius Nocthane did not look up. He never did. Tall and motionless, dressed in black tailored coats that never showed a wrinkle, he sat like a statue carved from night itself. His dark hair fell past his shoulders, smooth and untouched by gray, though rumors claimed he had ruled this land for longer than any living family could remember. Lena preferred when he didn't look at her. She crossed the room silently, collecting empty glasses from the side table. The wine inside them was darker than any she had seen before, thick and metallic in scent. She kept her eyes lowered. She always did. As she reached for the last decanter, her sleeve slipped. Just an inch. Just enough. Stop. The word landed like a blade. Lena froze. Her heart slammed so hard she thought it might betray her, pounding loud enough for him to hear. In the 8 months she had served at Blackthorn, Lord Nocthane had spoken to her fewer than a dozen times. Always brief. Always controlled. Lock the eastern doors before dawn. Burn the letters with the crimson seal. Never open the cellar. She had obeyed without question. She needed this job. Needed the shelter. Needed the distance from the village, and from the man who still believed he owned her. "My lord," she said softly, forcing steadiness into her voice. Silence followed. Then the scratching of the pen stopped. Lord Nocthane rose from his chair. When he stood, it was with a smoothness that unsettled her, too fluid, too precise, as if gravity itself bent differently around him. He approached without sound, and for the first time since she had arrived at Blackthorn, Lena felt him look at her. "Your arm." Her breath caught. She glanced down, already knowing what he had seen. The bruise bloomed dark and ugly against her pale skin, finger-shaped, deep purple fading into sickly yellow at the edges. Old enough to ache when touched. Fresh enough to remember. She yanked her sleeve down instinctively. "It's nothing," she said quickly. "I'm clumsy. I fell while carrying wood." The lie tasted familiar. Lord Nocthane stopped an arm's length away. Close enough that she noticed things she had trained herself to ignore. The unnatural stillness of his chest, the absence of warmth radiating from him, the faint gleam in his eyes like embers buried beneath ash. "Come here," he said. It was not a request. Her feet moved before fear could argue. She stood before him, hands folded, gaze fixed on the carpet as if the intricate patterns could save her. "Show me." Her fingers trembled as she rolled her sleeve back. The candlelight did her no favors. The marks looked worse under the glow, angrier, deliberate. Evidence she had worked so hard to hide. She waited for disgust, for indifference, for blame. What she felt instead was rage. It rolled off him in a quiet, terrifying wave. Lord Nocthane said nothing for a long moment. His jaw tightened, the muscle jumping once beneath skin too smooth to belong to any mortal man. "Who did this?" The question was soft. Dangerously soft. "It doesn't matter, my lord," Lena whispered. "Please?" "It matters," he said, cutting her off. "To me." Her throat tightened. She hadn't planned to speak the name. Had sworn she wouldn't. But something in his voice, something ancient and unyielding, made lies feel pointless. "Marcus Hale," she said finally. "From the village. He believes I owe him." Silence. "And do you?" Lord Nocthane asked. No. The word came out sharp. Fierce. Stronger than she felt. For the first time, the corner of his mouth lifted, not into a smile but something close. Good, he said quietly. That simplifies things. He turned toward the window, drawing aside the heavy curtain. Outside, the ground stretched dark and endless beneath the moon. His reflection did not appear in the glass. You will no longer return to the village alone, he said. Ever. Lena frowned. My lord. There are protections that come with serving this house, he continued. Ancient ones. She swallowed. Protections? He looked back at her then, and for a heartbeat she could have sworn his eyes reflected the candle flame like an animal's. You are under my protection now, he said. And that carries consequences. Her pulse thundered in her ears. I don't understand. You are not meant to, he replied gently. Not yet. He stepped closer, careful, controlled. But understand this, Lena, he said, his voice lowering. No one who bears the mark of this house is harmed without answer. Fear should have taken her. Instead, something else bloomed in her chest. Relief. Marcus Hale, she whispered. He will never touch you again, Lord Knockthane said. Not as a promise. As a fact. She looked up at him then, truly looked, and for the first time since fleeing the village she did not feel invisible. Go, he said softly. Rest. She hesitated. My lord. Yes. Why are you helping me? For a long moment he studied her, really studied her, as if she were something rare and fragile and dangerous all at once. Because, he said at last, you tried to hide pain in a house that does not tolerate lies. He stepped back, shadows reclaiming him. And Lena, he added, his voice low and unmistakably final, do not hide your bruises. Not here. Not from me. She left the study with shaking legs. But as she locked the door to her small room that night, she realized something unfamiliar had taken root beneath her fear. For the first time in a very long while, she felt safe. The morning that did not belong to him. Lena woke to sunlight. Real sunlight. For a moment she lay completely still, confused by the warmth spilling across her face and the soft gold glow resting on the stone walls of her room. At Blackthorn Estate, mornings were usually pale and quiet, gray light filtered through thick curtains, shadows lingering as if reluctant to leave. But today the sun shone boldly through the tall window, unapologetic and alive. She sat up slowly, her heart beginning to race as memory returned. The study. The bruise. His voice, low, controlled, terrifyingly calm. You are under my protection now. Her fingers curled into the blankets as she scanned the room. Everything looked the same. The small desk. The single wardrobe. The heavy door she locked every night from the inside. Still locked. Her gaze dropped to the bedside table. There, placed with careful precision, lay a folded sheet of thick parchment. Lena's breath caught. She had gone to sleep alone. She reached for the note with trembling hands and unfolded it. The handwriting was elegant and sharp, every letter perfectly formed. Your duties will begin at sunset tonight. Until then the house is open to you. No room is forbidden except the lower cellar and my private chambers. Mrs. Hale will prepare whatever meal you request. The village magistrate will receive an early visitor today. You are safe. Vienne. Lena read the words twice. Then a third time. The line about the magistrate sent a chill through her. Marcus Hale had always hidden behind authority, behind men who laughed at Lena's accusations and called her dramatic, ungrateful, hysterical. The idea of someone visiting the magistrate on her behalf felt unreal. Dangerous. She swallowed and stood, crossing the room to the mirror. Her reflection stared back, pale, dark-eyed, thinner than she remembered being before hunger and fear had carved her down. Her sleeve slipped as she raised her arm. The bruise was still there. Instinct urged her to hide it. She hesitated, remembering his words. Do not hide your bruises. Not here. Slowly, deliberately, Lena rolled her sleeves up to her elbows. Her hands shook, but she left them uncovered. Downstairs the estate felt different in daylight. The oppressive shadows retreated, revealing carved stonework shaped like twisting vines, stained glass windows that scattered color across marble floors, and portraits of people long dead watching silently from gilded frames. Everything was immaculate. Preserved. As if time itself had been forced to obey different rules within these walls. She found the kitchen warm and alive with the scent of bread. Mrs. Hale stood at the long wooden table, her gray hair pulled into a loose knot, hands dusted with flour as she kneaded dough. She looked up and smiled, then her gaze fell to Lena's arm. The smile faded. Oh, child, she murmured softly. Lena stiffened. I'm fine. Mrs. Hale clicked her tongue gently. Sit. You're not fine and you won't convince me otherwise. She poured tea into a chipped porcelain cup and pushed a plate of eggs and toast toward Lena. His lordship left instructions. You are to eat properly. He never comes down here, Lena said quietly. No, Mrs. Hale replied. But he notices everything. Lena hesitated before asking, do you know what he did last night? Mrs. Hale paused, then spoke carefully. I know that a carriage left the estate before dawn. And I know the magistrate does not enjoy being disturbed at sunrise. Lena's stomach twisted. Marcus will answer for himself, Mrs. Hale said firmly. And that is all you need to know. After breakfast, Lena wandered the corridors as instructed, her curiosity pulling her toward the west wing. At the end of a long hallway stood double doors she had passed countless times without daring to touch. The library. She pushed them open. The room stole her breath. Shelves stretched from floor to ceiling, filled with books in languages she recognized, and many she didn't. Journals, maps, medical texts, poetry, history. A massive fireplace dominated the far wall, flanked by armchairs worn smooth by time. This room had been used. She trailed her fingers along the spines until one caught her eye. A journal. She opened it. April 1793. Her pulse quickened. The entries spoke of wars long forgotten, of cities rising and falling, of a man watching generations pass while remaining unchanged. The handwriting matched the note upstairs. She turned another page. And another. Loneliness bled through the ink. Loss. Regret. Duty. She didn't hear him enter. You didn't leave. Lena spun around. Lord Valerius stood in the doorway, shadows clinging to him despite the daylight pouring through the tall windows. He remained just outside the sun's reach. No, she said honestly. I didn't. Most do, he replied quietly. She held up the journal. Because lonely people recognize each other. Something shifted in his expression, something raw and unguarded. The magistrate has agreed to pursue charges, he said after a moment. Marcus Hale has been warned. Publicly. Her breath hitched. Thank you. Do not thank me yet, he said, his voice darkening. By staying here, you have stepped into a world that does not forgive weakness. She straightened. I'm not weak. His gaze lingered on her uncovered bruises. No, he said softly. You are not. He took one step closer. And that, he added, is why this house will change for you, and why others will come to test me. Fear stirred. But beneath it, something stronger grew. Trust. The rules that protect and bind. By sunset, Blackthorn Estate no longer felt like a refuge. It felt like a border. Lena sensed it before she saw it, the way the air thickened, the way shadows gathered with purpose instead of chance. Lanterns were lit one by one along the corridors, their flames steady despite the lack of wind. Somewhere deep beneath the house, stone doors shifted, heavy mechanisms responding to the fall of night. She stood in the library where Lord Valerius had left her hours earlier, the journals returned carefully to their shelves. Her sleeves remained rolled up. The bruises had darkened as the day wore on, aching dully as if reminding her they were real. The doors opened without a sound. Lord Valerius entered, dressed not in the tailored black of the previous night, but in darker, older garments, long coat embroidered with subtle silver symbols she did not recognize. Power clung to him now, no longer restrained. It filled the room the way a storm fills the sky before lightning breaks. You were told to wait, he said calmly. I was, Lena replied. I stayed. Something like approval flickered across his face. Good, he said. Because what I'm about to tell you cannot be overheard. He gestured and the doors sealed themselves with a soft, final click. The lantern flames dimmed as if bowing to him. Lena swallowed. You said others would come. Yes. He crossed the room, stopping at the edge of the firelight. And before they do, you need to understand the rules that keep you alive. Rules? She echoed. Like a prison. Like armor, he corrected. He turned to face her fully, eyes dark and endless. There are 5 ruling vampire houses. Each controls territory, influence, and law. Blackthorn sits on land that should not belong to anyone. Why? She asked. Because it borders old ground, he said. Places where treaties were written in blood instead of ink. Boundaries that only hold if everyone remembers why they exist. And they don't, Lena said quietly. No, he agreed. They do not. He began to walk slowly as he spoke, his voice even, deliberate. Humans under a house's protection are rare. Most are kept ignorant. Easier that way. But the old laws, older than any living king, state that a human who accepts sanctuary must be treated with honor. Never harmed. Never owned. Her heart pounded. And others don't like that. Others despise it, Valerius said. Especially House Morvain. The name carried weight. Lena felt it settle in her chest like cold iron. They believe humans are resources, he continued. Useful. Replaceable. And they are watching this estate very closely. Because of me? Yes. The word landed heavy. Lena wrapped her arms around herself. I didn't ask for this. No, he said quietly. You asked for safety. And safety always has a price. She lifted her chin. Then tell me the cost. For a moment he simply looked at her. Not as a lord. Not as a monster. As a man deciding how much truth to give. Rule 1, he said. You do not leave these grounds without me or someone sworn to my house. Not for errands. Not for visits. The village is no longer safe. That's not protection, she said sharply. That's confinement. It is survival, he replied without apology. And I will not pretend otherwise. She exhaled slowly. What's rule 2? You speak of nothing you see here, he said. No matter how harmless it seems. Silence keeps you alive. She nodded. And rule 3? He hesitated. The pause unsettled her more than anything else. Rule 3, he said finally, is for me. For you? You tell me, he said, voice lowering, the moment you feel afraid of me. Her breath caught. Why would I be? Because power corrupts even those who believe they are different, he said. And I need to know if I am becoming what I have spent centuries resisting. The admission stripped the room of its tension. This was not a tyrant. This was a man afraid of himself. You're not a monster, Lena said before she could stop herself. His gaze snapped to hers. Monsters do not ask for consent, she continued, heart racing. They take. They don't warn. They don't protect. Silence stretched. Then he stepped back as if granting her space. You speak boldly for someone with so much to lose, he said. I've already lost plenty, she replied. Truth isn't what scares me. Slowly she extended her hand, open, steady. If staying here binds me to your rules, she said, then I choose them. But I won't live as a prisoner. Valerius stared at her hand for a long moment. When he took it, his touch was cool, but gentle. Then understand this, he said softly. By choosing protection you also choose visibility. Meaning? House Morvain will test me, he said. Through you. Fear flickered. But beneath it resolve took root. Then let them, Lena said quietly. I'm done being afraid. A shadow of a smile touched his lips. Then you are far more dangerous than they expect. Outside, the last light of day vanished. And with it, Lena's old life disappeared forever. When they tested his protection, the warning came without sound. Lena noticed it first, not with her ears but in her bones. The air inside Blackthorn Estate shifted, tightening like a held breath. The lantern flames along the corridor flickered once, then steadied, their light sharpening instead of softening. Someone had crossed a boundary. She stood at the tall arched window overlooking the front grounds, her fingers resting lightly against the cold glass. Night had fully claimed the land, the moon hanging low and bright above the iron gates. For a heartbeat, everything appeared peaceful. Then the gates opened. No creak. No resistance. They parted as if the estate itself had been commanded to yield. A single carriage rolled forward, black and polished, pulled by horses too still, too silent. No driver sat atop the bench. The vehicle stopped precisely at the center of the courtyard. Lena's pulse quickened. She felt him before she heard him. Lord Valerius appeared behind her, his presence filling the space like a living shadow. He did not touch her, but she sensed his attention lock onto her instantly, sharp and assessing. They've arrived, she said. Yes, he replied calmly. Earlier than expected. Her throat tightened. Because of me. Because you matter, he corrected. The carriage door opened. A man stepped out, tall, pale, dressed in crimson-lined black, his smile too practiced to be sincere. His eyes glinted unnaturally in the moonlight, scanning the estate as though it were already his. House Morvain, Lena whispered. Valerius did not deny it. They've come to test the old laws, he said. To see if I will bend. And if you don't? Then they will push harder. The man below looked up suddenly. Straight at Lena's window. Her breath caught. He smiled wider. I don't like him, she said softly. You shouldn't, Valerius replied. He enjoys cruelty disguised as diplomacy. The doors behind them opened before Lena could ask another question. The estate itself seemed to guide them forward, corridors unfolding as if anticipating what must come. They met House Morvain in the great hall. The visitor bowed with exaggerated grace. "Lord Nocthane. You keep unusual company these days." His gaze slid to Lena, lingering openly on her bruises. Valerius moved. Not fast. Not threatening. Simply enough to place himself between them. "This human is under my protection," he said. "You will not look at her again." The man laughed softly. "Protection is such an outdated concept. Surely you know that." "I know the law," Valerius replied. "And so do you." The smile faded. "You shelter weakness," Morvain said. "That makes you vulnerable." Valerius's voice dropped, cold and final. "You mistake restraint for vulnerability." Morvain took a step closer. And that was his mistake. The air cracked. The lanterns flared, then shattered, plunging the hall into moonlit darkness. Lena felt the pressure of power slam through the room, ancient and overwhelming. Valerius did not move, but the ground beneath Morvain's feet split, a hairline fracture racing across the marble. Morvain froze. "This house honors the old laws," Valerius said quietly. "You will leave. Now." "And the human?" Morvain sneered. Valerius turned his head just enough to look at Lena. "She stays," he said. "And anyone who touches her answers to me." Something in his tone finally reached Morvain. Fear. He straightened, smoothing his coat. "Very well. Tonight." He bowed again, stiffer this time. "But this is not finished." "No," Valerius agreed. "It isn't." The carriage departed as silently as it arrived. When the gates sealed once more, the estate exhaled. Lena realized she was shaking. Valerius turned to her instantly. "Are you hurt?" "No," she said. "But I saw how he looked at me." "I know," Valerius said, his jaw tightening. "And I will not allow it again." She hesitated. "You didn't have to do that. You could have sent me away." His eyes softened, not warm but honest. "I will not hide you," he said. "I will not erase you for convenience." She swallowed hard. "That could start a war." "It already has," he replied. Silence fell between them, heavy but unbroken. Finally Lena said, "Thank you, for choosing me." Valerius studied her, something deep and unguarded flickering in his gaze. "I did not choose you because you were weak," he said. "I chose you because you stood your ground when fear would have been easier." Her heart raced. Outside, thunder rolled in the distance, far away but approaching. And Lena understood something then. The most dangerous place in the world was no longer outside these walls. It was wherever enemies decided to test the bond between a vampire lord and the girl he had sworn to protect. The choice that made her queen. The storm did not arrive with violence. It came quietly, like a decision already made. Lena stood alone on the eastern balcony as dawn approached, the sky bruised with violet and silver. The night after House Morvain's visit had passed without sleep. The estate had remained tense, alert, alive in a way she now recognized as readiness, not fear. Footsteps sounded behind her. She did not turn. "You should rest," Valerius said. "So should you," Lena replied. He joined her at the railing, careful not to crowd her. For a long moment neither spoke. The wind tugged gently at her hair. Below them the grounds lay calm, deceptive in their peace. "They will come again," she said quietly. "Yes," Valerius answered. "And next time they will not come to speak." She inhaled slowly. "Then I need to tell you something." He turned fully toward her. "When Marcus was taken before the magistrate," Lena continued, "I was called to testify. Not publicly. Privately." Valerius's posture stilled. "You didn't tell me." "I didn't know how," she said. "I thought it was over." "What happened?" he asked, his voice controlled but tight. "The magistrate tried to dismiss it again," she said. "Said my word wasn't enough." Valerius's hands curled slowly into fists. "But then," Lena went on, "something strange happened. When I spoke, when I told the truth, it was like he heard me. Really heard me." His expression changed. As if something compelled him. Valerius looked at her sharply. "You didn't just speak," he said slowly. "Did you?" She met his gaze. "No." Silence fell between them, heavy with realization. "I didn't know what it was," Lena said. "All my life people ignored me. Talked over me. Hurt me because they could. But when I spoke then my words carried weight. Authority. As if the truth itself demanded obedience." Valerius exhaled, something between awe and disbelief crossing his features. You carry an old resonance, he said. A binding voice. Rare. Human, but powerful. I didn't want power, Lena said softly. I just wanted to be safe. And yet, he replied, power found you anyway. The sky lightened further, dawn creeping closer. That is why Morvain wanted you, Valerius continued. Not because you are weak, but because you are not. Lena turned to face him fully. Then listen to me now. He did. I will not be hidden, she said. I won't be used as bait, or sheltered like a fragile thing. If this war comes, I want a choice in it. Valerius searched her face, centuries of restraint warring with something dangerously close to hope. What choice do you ask for? He asked. She stepped closer, just close enough to feel the stillness of him, the cold strength beneath his control. Stand with you, she said. Not behind you. For the first time since she had met him, Valerius Nocthane faltered. To do that, he said quietly, is to bind yourself to this house. To me. Not as a servant. Not as a protected human. But as what? She asked. As my equal, he said. And one day, if you choose, as my queen. The word echoed. Queen. Lena thought of the girl she had been. Bruised. Afraid. Unseen. She thought of the girl she had become. I choose, she said. The air shifted. Ancient wards stirred beneath the stone, responding not to blood, but to consent. Valerius reached for her hand, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. When their fingers intertwined, the estate responded, light blooming through the windows, warmth spreading through halls long cold. Far away House Morvain felt it. A bond had been forged. That morning Marcus Hale was sentenced publicly. His influence vanished overnight, his name becoming a warning whispered in the village. Do not mistake silence for weakness. And Lena never returned there again. She did not need to. Weeks later, as the world adjusted to a new balance of power, Lena stood beside Valerius in the great hall, not as a maid but as the Lady of Blackthorn. She spoke when laws were written. She was listened to. Because kindness, when paired with courage, becomes something unstoppable. And the vampire lord who once ruled alone learned something no war had ever taught him. That the strongest throne is not built on fear. It is built on respect. The end.